Now let's move on to China because when Kamala Harris was asked, who do you think the United States' biggest adversary is, she said Iran. Donald Trump said he thinks the enemy from within sometimes is a bigger threat than Russia from China. Some national security experts would say that China is our biggest adversary. What do you think the United States' relationship with China looks like in a couple of months, whether it be a Trump presidency or a Harris one?
In a Trump presidency, the big issue is, are you going to put major tariffs on? He's not as focused on Taiwan, though Congress is. Certainly Republicans in Congress are. And he's not as focused on technology, semiconductors, AI. He's very focused on the trade deficit. And the only part of China's economy that is succeeding right now is their manufacturing sector. There's not much domestic demand for it. It is overproduction and being sent around the world to the United States and other countries. So, yeah, Trump has a reason to be angry about the trade deficit. And I mean, he doesn't want to put a VAT on American goods, but I mean, you can do effectively the same thing by throwing a massive tariff on China. Now, if it's that big, if it's 60% is a real number, then the cost on the American consumer and on China is going to be massive. And that could lead to a trade war between the two countries. Or it could lead the Chinese to cry uncle and say, I got to give this guy a deal because I can't afford this. So I would say with Trump, there are tail risks, both upside and downside, that are much more significant on China than the status quo ante that we would see continuing if Harris were to be president.
And would a potential trade war, how badly would that hurt the United States?
Less badly than it would hurt China, certainly. But, it would have an impact on consumer goods. I mean, I think that the major issue for a Trump presidency economically is that it's inflationary. It's inflationary because of tariffs, and it's inflationary because of his views of illegal immigration. I mean, he says he wants to remove 12 million illegal immigrants from the United States. I think that is impossible from an infrastructure perspective, but it's certainly plausible he could do 1.5 million to maybe 5 million. And those are people you are taking out of the labor market. And the cost of labor will go up. You still need those jobs to be done. It's relatively tight in terms of unemployment right now. So people are going to have to pay a lot more. And who are they going to pass those costs on to? Consumers. So in both cases, a Trump presidency would be significantly inflationary.
I want to talk about the part of your speech where you were talking about the United States and the conflict we see domestically, and you called that the war between Americans and Americans. Can you explain that and expand on that just a little bit?
I think that whoever we vote for in the United States on Tuesday, it's not that the enemy is within, it's rather that people think that the enemy is within. Both sides, Democrats and Republicans, believe that the other side of the political spectrum wants to destroy democracy. I mean, they're calling each other fascists. They're talking about the deep state. They're talking about, each other's a dictator. And I mean, I'll put my cards on the table. I mean, I personally believe that Trump in particular is the most unfit for office person that we have ever experienced as president and shouldn't be allowed to run. But unfortunately, impeachment, which used to be a check on the executive authority in the United States, no longer functions as part of our institutional framework. So democracy has eroded, and Trump has taken advantage of that. But the broader problem is not Trump. Trump is a symptom of the broader problem. The broader problem is that you have lots of Americans that don't believe that the country works as an effective democracy anymore. They don't believe that their leaders represent them. And that is what's driving this, us versus them, America versus itself warfare. Political warfare that is going on now, and is one of the reasons why the U.S. is the only country among all advanced industrial democracies that is not capable of having a free and fair election that is seen as legitimate by its entire population. Canada can, the UK, even Italy, France, Japan, South Korea, they can all do it. Even poorer countries like Indonesia had 140 million people vote in one day. No problem, transition. We can't do it in the United States. That's a serious problem.